We already introduced everyone to each other. So what we want to do is I want to quickly show how to install the United Manufacturing app and also how to use the management console. We know that we have been absent from the community for the past weeks and months. And we have been working very hard on the management console. So we want to show it how one can install it. I'm going to do here with the VM on Proxmox. Currently my team is working on also documenting everything, that we have a public facing user documentation, but this will come in the upcoming days. And once I show this, I think it should not take more than 20 minutes. We can go through questions. I think because you're only 3 people, I think everyone can just ask the questions. If some questions arise that take a longer answer, we could take a vote, and everyone just votes on what they think is the most important thing in case we need to prioritize. But we're quite a small group, which is very nice. So maybe for you a little bit recapture, how did we come to the current point? So we started with 3 pillars. We have the data infrastructure, which is everything from HiveMQ to MQTT, Kafka, storing database, timescale-DB. This is one pillar, which is open source. And then we have 2 additional components, which are Community Edition / Enterprise. One is the device container infrastructure, because deploying the Helm chart oneself is, you can do it, but still, if you were to deploy it in a production environment, or if you were to deploy it very often and every time different configured, it will get setting up the operating system, etc. takes a lot of time. So we developed the device container infrastructure, which is still also available for you, free to use. And then third part is the management console, which is officially not released yet. So what you see is a version that's very early. So we didn't want to announce it big on LinkedIn, because when we do it, we expect a lot of people will try it out immediately. And for this, it's not stable enough, because we say we have high standards regarding that. So I will start with actually installing the everything on a VM on Proxmox, because I think I saw in the community there were some people asking about how to install it on Proxmox. So Proxmox is the hypervisor, so I will do that, and then I will show you how to use the management console. 15 minutes maximum. If you have any questions during the installation, feel free to ask. Feel free to just ask your questions.
I'm actually stepping away to plug in my Proxmox server, so I'm going to try to follow along.
All right. So this is our developer Proxmox instance. I have my own instance here. How is it configured? I think there is some important things. If you want to duplicate it in Proxmox, there's the BIOS setting. I mean, you see it's recorded, so feel free to copy it. There's the machine Q34, 34, and then there is the reloaded in the IPXE image that you can also find on our documentation. And what I'm going to do...
That's the basic Flatcar image, right? There's nothing special about it. It's the same one like Hive.
This one is IPXE image, UMH.docs. Let me quickly show you where to find this. If you go here to, so the coming week, so if you take a look at the recording, it might be that this point moved. Currently find it under installation, Flatcar installation. Depending on what you need, I think I'm using the EFI image here.
Mm-hmm.
All the system needs this.
But I think we're installing on the VM, right, and not on bare metal. So it should be the second chapter.
Could also be. Maybe we have. Yeah, we only have. Yeah. I don't know, to be honest, which one of those I would need to ask. If you want, I can take a look later. You can take, but this is like where you can get it. And If we go back, that's basically it. So I'm here. We gave it 16 cores and 8 gigabyte of memory, but the minimum requirements are 4 cores and 8 gigabyte of memory. For anything production, I would recommend to use more.
Sorry, can you specify a particular number you would recommend for production on a Flatcar VM? 32 gigs and...
It now really depends on the workload that you want to do. Also,
for proof of concept.
Just to be on the safe side, if the customer does not have anything to worry about hardware costs, because typically if you do a project like this, the overall cost of this, the hardware will be minimal. If you say 8 cores, 16 gigabyte of RAM, you will definitely be on the safe side. We say it can also work for lower, but we're currently in the middle of developing automated benchmarking and testing. So I think in a week I can tell you exactly what you can do.
Perfect, thank you.
So let me just stop the machine here. And now I'm going to start. And the first thing, if you want to do it in Proxmox, please load. No, it's not starting. Give me a second. Give me 5 more minutes. This happens if you do it on a developer instance on Proxmox. Something just went wrong with our server. Give me 5 minutes. We're really rebooting it. All right. So what we just did is we rebooted our VM here. Please don't ask me what happened here. If you start the VM, I think this was also asked, so I'm also recording this here, is you need to, if you want to boot it, first you need to disable secure boot. Spacebar, escape, continue. Then it will boot automatically from the USB stick. Not from the USB stick, but from the image. If you have any edge device, you can also flash this iPixie image also on the USB stick and use it on edge devices. Follow the installation wizard here. Currently, it's only supported by default with DHCP. It's actually, I know Dennis did a video about this. It's actually much harder than one would think that one can change it. So we will probably tackle this in a couple of unfortunately months. So far, it can only be installed with DHCP.
But it's still possible to change it after the installation, right? So it's technically still okay, I think.
Yeah, it's possible. However, I would not recommend, or if you were to do this, it's probably not. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to do it as community, as self-serve, then you need to figure it on your own. If you want to do it commercially, we could help you, but it's not something that we would support yet as a self-service. I can now select the disk, SDA, confirm. And
is with the local instance for the DHCP, is there any kind of if you do set it to a static IP address, is there any limitations in the scripting across the stack that refers to a domain lookup, like a DNS style on the local network inside of the the virtual network? Or if you set it to a static IP, will that hinder lookup in terms of Flatcar.local or MQTT.local or Node-RED.local rather than an individual IP address, if that makes sense?
It doesn't matter. The thing why it's so difficult is that Kubernetes K3s really does not like if you change the IP address while it's running. This is the most problematic thing. So what you could do, you could start Flatcar, change the IP to static, and then just reinstall Kubernetes and everything from scratch, and then you should be fine. If you want to do it in a running system, there's Rafael from Brazil. If you were to do it, so that's the thing that's blocking it. So you could just use a basic Flatcar, set up everything on your own, and then install UMH. But install the UMH after it, you shouldn't change the IP address. So maybe to explain what happens here, because I think this is interesting, because this is an essential part of our device and container infrastructure. So what happens is you just entered where installation wizard, and then there was like a way to also enter like custom tokens. And with this, you can specify certain virtual machines. And with basically what you can do is if you use the exactly same token, everything will set up the exact same way as the first time. Currently, using like custom tokens is only something that we do with our customers, but we want to do it until end of this year, that you can also configure this as a entire self-service thing in the management console as well. So what happens is it will boot by default. It will just boot the default installation. It will install Flatcar to the operating system. It will restart, and now we have like Flatcar 1 running, and from there on it will install kubectl, it will install Helm, it will install everything else, and also install the UMH, etc. So it will do everything automatically. So the only thing that we need to do now is wait and to have the UMH set up. And it is normal that it will look like this. So let me show you. So the IP here is 10.13.37.55. If I enter this in my shell here, let me change to this window, SSH or at 10.13.37.55. So the correct? Yes. Password, username is always core, and the password is UMH if you're using the default installation, so the default token, as we did. And that's it. If you take a look here, we see that in the background, everything is already starting to install. So Postgres is running, which means type LDB. So the next thing I want to show is that was basically it. That was installation of the UMH Manufacturing Hub. But if you now want to use the management console, I will also show you how to do that. So I've now logged into management.umh.app. We haven't advertised this so far, but you can already try it out right now. You can create a new instance. Currently, you can only add it to either a Red Hat Enterprise Linux or...
Sorry, Jeremy, can you show the URL again? It's not visible on the screen for the console. Was it management at...
Yeah, I posted here in the chat.
Thank you.
Let me also zoom out a little bit, much better. So in general, we saw with our enterprise customers, there are typically two things that they have. Either their IT provides them, they can provide them a VM virtual machine. And then usually, especially in the larger enterprises, which are currently our target group, they usually have Red Hat. It's just a historical thing, how it grew. So we support currently Red Hat. So if your IT provides you with Red Hat Enterprise Linux VM, you just take it and you can install the UMH with the following command here. And I showed this because this is a community meeting. I assume you don't want to pay a lot of money for the Red Hat license. So you can also just use Flatcar, as I've shown you just before. And then what you need to do is you need to give a name to your instance. Hello, community. You can create your command. I will copy paste it. So let me share again. I will paste in here. Press enter. It will run through. Yes, I want to continue. It already detected that the UMH was already installed.
So you're installing the Helm chart, right? Am I correct? Or
no, it was already, everything was already installed. The only thing that now is adding it to the management console.
Okay, yeah. Great.
So, but now switch back to here. We see that on the bottom right, it changed from waiting to let's go because it already checked in. We can click on it and we already see our instance is now online. We can see all components. We can see that it's Flatcar, the version of it, what's the current CPU and RAM usage. So apparently it has only 4 GB of RAM, my instance here. So this is definitely not recommended because without doing anything, it's already at 38%. So probably please, I can strongly recommend to put it at 8 GB. I hope everything will work now. And what you can now do, so this is kind of monitoring screen and we're continuously improving it. So there are currently no Kubernetes errors. And now how we saw people were working is that there is very often there are these Excel lists about the asset that the company had. PLCs. So PLCs with IP address, username, password, how to log in. And what we want to do with this, it's called data connect, we'll change it to asset management, is we want to replace those types of Excel sheets. So I currently have a PLC running. Let me find out the IP address again. Give me a second. And let me. Okay, I have it. And for example, I could add this PLC. It's actually Vago PLC that's running here beside the server. Vago PLC. Give it an IP address 10.13.37.50. And will now automatically check also the connection. And the idea behind it is that it's usually a two-step process. Like there's one person who is going to add all of these assets and probably IT, because IT is also responsible for maintaining all the firewall rules, etc. So with this, IT can edit, and they basically can also see if the connection is done. And from there on, we're now saving the connection. And from there on, it is monitored automatically. So all the assets that you add, well, they're auto ping continuously, which will help you if you have a lot of PLCs and PLC can go offline. And then also the data streams that are connected with it will also go offline. So that if you don't receive data into the MES anymore, you see directly what's the reason of this. Hey, someone plugged the cable out of the PLC, which will help in troubleshooting. Also in the future, you will be able not to add OPC-UA servers, but basically any asset that you have, anything with an IP address, and the management console will continuously ping it.
So is this like the way to monitor, let's say, your Node-RED connections, or work in conjunction with?
Yeah, the idea what we want to do is very similar. That if you want to add like a Node-RED instance, you still add the connection to the device here, because with this you can monitor the device. So what we want to do with the management console is we want to give you all the information that you need for troubleshooting. If something will go wrong, we've seen large deployments, and that especially with Node-RED. Oh, someone else wants to join. And something will go wrong. So, and especially with Node-RED can happen that Node-RED also goes down because it's not really known for its reliability. So if you add it here as a connection first, and then you add it to Node-RED or use anything else, it will help you in keeping the actual reason for why something might not be sending data. You will directly be informed.
I see. So this is really more for monitoring your system, not really for configuring it. That's something that has to be done by the integrator, but then you expose this dashboard to the client so that he or she can quickly troubleshoot in case something is off. Is that correct?
Exactly. For now, this is only a dashboard. We will, in the very near future, we will expose it so it can be integrated. But this is then not Community Edition. This is then Enterprise, that you can connect it to the existing help desk systems that you have in enterprises. So the idea is, hey, this is dashboard, okay, but at an enterprise, there are way more systems there so that you can easily, if this goes to unhealthy, that automatically a ticket is sent to the company's internal ticket system so that IT gets immediately notified about this. But this was now only the first step. The second step is also to extract data for it. And if you have looked at what we did in the past months, we have also developed Benthos UMH. Who has already worked with it? If not, yeah, it's Benthos is an open source project. It's actually it's a small project. However, we tested a lot of commercial solutions for just to work with data, and we found this single tool to be still way more reliable than if you pay a lot of money for other tools. So we're building on top of it, and what we built in is an OPC UA connection. Let me maybe show you the project, because this one is also open source. Basically, if you just want to have unified namespace with MQTT or Kafka, and you just want to get data off an OPC UA server, and you don't want to pay a lot for commercial licenses or have these license servers, like paying is very often not the problem, but you just want to have a IT best practice Docker container, which just takes data from OPC UA and puts it into MQTT or Kafka.
That's exactly what I needed.
Yeah, it's absolutely stupid, but there was no commercial solution out there proper. We tested one. I don't want to say the name here, but you can find it in one of my articles. There was a commercial solution that we tested, but we were not able to get it working. We heard from our customers as well, it wasn't working. So we decided last resort, let's just do something open source here. Really, it even works with Docker. Even if you don't want to use a night manufacturing app, you can still use it with it. It's a simple Docker run command, easy to configure, pointed to the OPC UA instance, what nodes you want to read out, and where do you want to send it.
So if I'm understanding this is mainly a translation layer between the OPC UA data to the MQTT stack.
Exactly, MQTT and Kafka. You can decide.
Is there any reason why this was done outside of Node-RED?
Yes, there was. We compared various tools. I could go for hours into this. I try to keep it short. So
that's okay.
You might use Node-RED for multiple things. Either it's taking data, putting it to the unified namespace, or second step, taking data out of the unified namespace, doing something with it, and pushing it back. And we've looked at a lot of tools. I don't want to name many commercial tools right now. I think I've written blog posts about it. I'm just a little bit careful with talking about potential other players in the market because of overlap. And so I only give it out in a written form where I double checked all the legal correctness. So far, we already got like 2 cease and desist letters from a specific company, from a specific MQTT broker. So I'm careful. So there are various commercial solutions out there, and also Node-RED. And actually, Node-RED was in our comparison in the top 3. We compared like 8 different tools. Where's Node-RED good? It's very good for IT and OT. For IT, it's deployed somehow as a Docker container. But also for OT, they can work with it. IT, of course, if you would ask them, they all would prefer like Spark, Flink, whatever to do their stuff. But you cannot tell someone on the shop floor to just program a Java program. It's too complicated. So there is Node-RED, and we're always going to put Node-RED or flow views or components like this. And we've also seen a large enterprises doing it, always going to put it in for prototyping or strong customization. So for areas that are not standardized. So if you are a large automotive company and you have 200 plants, I've seen this, 10 plants are already connected to your cloud system, but now you need to get the other 190 connected all around the globe. So you want like Node-RED that helps you to ensure that it doesn't matter where the person is, everyone can use it. However, it has a disadvantage because it's kind of unreliable. So if you're talking about mass scale, so you have 100 OPC UA servers, quite standardized. You don't want to use Node-RED because Node-RED is bad with handling a lot of data, etc. You want to use something more stable. So we use Benthos. It has the disadvantage of being a little bit more techy. So not that easy to use, but we'll come to that. But on the other side, it will be more stable. So it also depends on who's going to set it up. Is it an automation engineer who's going to connect some weird quality testing station, or is it IT going to connect 50 PLCs that are at least 90% the same? For the later case, we actually an already existing project, and we just added a couple of more functionalities to it, and we'll also merge it back at one point. It's actually a nice tool. You can feel free to take a look at it. However, this still looks very technical. This is not something that an OT person could do. So what we did, on top of it, we put a lot of logic in the management console so that you can use it in the background. So we have our connection here. We still see the latency. And we can now very easily initialize it or configure it. So we can connect anonymously via it. In the future, we have a lot of options to add all the nodes in it. Currently, it's a YAML file. Let me, I need to open quickly UA Expert to see what node I need to add. Give me a second.
It also makes sense that by having the OPC UA communications handled through this Benthos, and these you take a lot of the heavy lifting out of Node-RED, so that could be more freed up for the edge cases, whereas OPC UA communications would probably take a large portion of your Node-RED setup, and then you would not really have as much room to experiment with a more simpler JavaScript-based system. You have the OPC UA tailored system in the back end, making sure that that's reliable and in one source or one area, so you don't have a bunch of different configurations for different OPC UA clients.
Yeah. Within I can confirm.
I just joined like a minute ago, but I had a quick question. So we were discussing how OT people are configuring the connection to the platform. Something I work at Siemens, something I always like is browsing. For talking about Benthos, I didn't see you have to configure it in the YAML file of the Docker container. That's reducing scalability. What if I want to connect 200 plants or 200 devices? I cannot just browse, click, and that's done. It requires quite some setup to do it. How would you approach that? How would you solve that?
That's a very good question. So that's one reason why we went for the YAML file as an intermediary step. It's not ideal. It's far from ideal. But also, to be honest, this browsing is also not ideal. So what we've seen so we're in energy, for example, or we're in pharmaceutical, and they already know which text they want to extract. So they have, for example, in a SCADA system, a PCS7, they already can do an export. And then they're going to get then you're going to get some kind of CSV. And the idea is that they can just upload the CSV file into here. So there will also be the option to maybe use like a browse thing for like, I would say small scale installations where you want to install a couple of machines, but we want to target this to the large enterprise. So the idea is they can just upload a CSV, which might contain 30,000 tags, whatever, which are already contextualized. They might already have it. Maybe they need to format this a little bit. But I would say this is a very easy data science task, and then it just can copy paste and throw it in. That was our reasoning behind this.
This is still markup, or this is working?
So the YAML thing is working, and what we currently do at one customer is we're writing for them. It's just a small temporary thing. They have Excel sheets at the SQL database. We're writing small data pipeline from the SQL database to this YAML thing. So it's really easy for them to create it. It's kind of a we have to prioritize features. And it's kind of a medium solution, but it allows us for community members to use it as well as the right this.
Interesting. Thank you.
That was it. Data sources deployed. The data health here is unfortunately not yet working. We could take a look here. This is now the second part, because especially unified namespace situations, you might have a lot of instances. You might have it on edge devices, just because behind demilitarized zones. So then you have a lot of smaller unified namespaces. And what we do here is from all the connected instances that you see here, because it's only one online, we build a tire tree view with like, where did this message come from? What was the latest element? You can browse through it. You will see on the later stage, where did the message origin from? Was it coming from Node-RED or was it coming from Benthos? And where did it land up? Which will also help you in visualizing your unified namespace. This is now, it's working, but there you see a lot of functionalities are still disabled. This was what I wanted to present about the management console. I see we already took a lot of time, so I still have time afterwards if you want to stay a little bit longer. But I would now give over to you to ask questions. So, Chris, you start with the first question.
There's the raise your hand feature. I think will be kind of convenient for that, but I think you have to have it again to lower it. But I do remember a discussion. I believe I don't know if it was in Discord or if it was within the UMH documentation about Eclipse Sparkplug B specification and bringing that more in line with the ISA 95 like kind of specifications. And there was a request, I think, that you put on the GitHub for the Sparkplug B, which is an open source. And I was wondering if you guys are thinking about taking on some of that internally, or if there's any kind of like movement or headway in terms of changing that specification or developing your own namespace specification.
We did the deliberate decision of very practical problems with Sparkplug B, because it's, so what do a lot of companies want? They want to have this tree-like structure, which is not possible in the current implementation of Sparkplug B. So we did, this was already public. I can also put the link in, still work in progress, but we made deliberate decision. Wait, let me find out exactly. We made the deliberate decision, here we have it, to not use Sparkplug B, because we want to go for ISA 95 compatibility. We want to have it right now. Companies wanted to have it right now. They don't want to wait another year or something until it lands up in the standard. So we are, and this is what we're currently, by the way, releasing. Today there was the first version of the new data model, which allows you to really work in this type of topic structure. It will automatically exchange messages between MQTT and Kafka, and will from today on will also store it automatically in the database if it adheres to a certain schema. I could now answer way more, but I hope this did it answer your question?
Yeah, yes, most definitely, because I think that was an older conversation that probably led up to those determinations. Is there kind of a more recent documentation that we can go in and look at the current data model in depth?
This link, let me put it in. I already put it in. This is the one that we released today. It's still a pre-release, but we will continuously work on this for the next until 2 weeks. We put I found something interesting. It's called ADRs. It's a way to structurally describe why you made a certain architectural decision. And I try to, because we are a small company compared to all the big players out there. So if we're doing our own kind of standard, there needs to be a very, very good reason for this. So we decided, okay, we're not going to use Sparkplug B. There is no other standard, so let us exactly in absolute detail describe why every single component of our data model is where it is currently, so that companies can really take a look at it and understand it, and also come to the same conclusion that Sparkplug B is not the most practical choice.
In that sense, sorry to interrupt you, but could you, too long didn't read, say why Sparkplug B is not the way to go?
This is in the ISA 95. Very easy. There are some ways to kind of bring it in. And that was, wait, give me a second. Where did I write it down? The two things. First was the topic structure, because it's not ISA 95, so you don't get in MQTT Explorer this nice tree view. You can somehow put it in as an asset ID, or I don't know how it's called to Sparkplug. It's possible to put it somehow in there, but still it will not be like a proper tree structure. And the second point is the payload, because the payload is protobuf. Yes, it's nice. Yes, it works good for IT. Yes, it says performance in network, but what's currently effectively the problem, IT nodes, being able to communicate with each other. And now IT says, yeah, you need to use protobuf. How is this? I'm an IT person. I know how to use it all, but still, now you know that you need to load an additional plugin with protobuf, and then you need to add an additional file to it. Then it converts it. Just makes everything way more complicated than just using JSON. So I know JSON is not optimal and would not be the IT best practice thing, but we also have to consider OT. So that's the second point why we said, hey, we cannot use Sparkplug, because it would just create what are the advantages and what disadvantages and disadvantages would be that it's hard. It's hard for OT to model it. And Christian, you had a question.
Yeah, on my research, I stumbled a lot on Kafka and MQTT, but also on NUTS. And it seemed to me that it could solve the issue. You have two systems, and I think in your documentation it said somewhere, because one is good for the one part and the other is good for the other part. It seemed to me that NUTS could solve both things.
Yeah, okay. So this one, I will definitely put it as a link in short. This is the answer to this question. So you've asked why we're not using NUTS, or what's about MQTT, Kafka, and NUTS. And this question is very often asked, so let me answer this. The question is not about technology. There are actually three parts that you need to consider in digital transformation. There are technology, people, and process. And the decision here, NUTS is probably the better technology decision. I don't want to say it, but it's more modern. It has a lot of MQTT or Kafka features, whatever. But they're also process and people. And process, let's start with this. This is the reason why we put Kafka in, because a lot of the large enterprise already have some people working with Kafka. So they're already existing processes inside of the company. So there's also, if you say now, I'm now using a new message broker, like in large enterprises, like, yeah, does anyone know about this? So you don't gain fans by introducing like new tools. With this, you can go easily to the data analytics people, and they will be like, oh, Kafka, yeah, super cool. Or data streaming, yeah, super cool. Yeah, if you use this, we can just directly stream it. And there are established processes to do it. And the second point, also the people. And this is, I think, the winning point of MQTT. It's extremely easy for an OT person to use. There's MQTT Explorer. You don't need to think about partitions and everything around it. So I would say it could be that Nets is from a technology perspective the best choice. But if you think about like what is the advantage, maybe it's quicker, maybe it has way more performance. But if you take a look, digital transformation, there are now a lot of manufacturing managers, and you need to convince them. And it's way easier to convince them saying, hey, let's do it like how we did it the last 20 years. Let's use Kafka. There's already a team there. Nothing new. There's MQTT. It's been used since the 90s. OT people, they want to use it. PLCs can directly speak it. It's more of a people and process answer why we use MQTT Kafka and not the technology one.
Okay.
LinkedIn short and did that answer your questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I still have time.
Is there something for Kafka that's like the MQTT Explorer?
There is. We by default use Red Panda, which is Kafka compatible. It's a new, because Kafka, yes, it is. The entire world is very old, but still, so it's reliable. But also, you see, it has been developed 2012. It has very strong all this Java stuff tied to it. So, and you see it when you use DBT. You wrote an article, or you can stream changes from SQL to Kafka, and you see it's not designed for the modern world. And Red Panda is a new company that's been trying to make everything compatible with Kafka, but just make it up to modern standards with like very simplified APIs, etc. And they also have a tool called Red Panda Console, which allows you to view Kafka. It's not exactly as MQTT, because Kafka is a little bit more complicated in the background with partitions and everything around it. Maybe I don't know if it's exposed by default. Let me look. Maybe I can just show it in real time.
If it's exposed by default, yeah, you can navigate to it.
Do you know which port it is?
Yes. 1880. But you have to add /node-red in. I'm sorry. So it's not red. Red Panda is on 8090.
Yes, perfect. Oh, thank you. So let's take a look at the instance that I've just did. So this would be like the Explorer. So this is like what we just added. They're just coming in here, but we see like the topics. We can go in here, we can see the messages. There are some features in it. This would be like an intuitive to also view Kafka, or you can use the management console data dashboard. But this one is still development. It works. One thing that I haven't presented so far in the new data model, there's this thing between MQTT and Kafka. In the old data model, we did a one-to-one mapping. So in MQTT topic is exactly the same as the Kafka topic, and just this dot is replaced with a slash. In the new data model, because Kafka is not designed to have a lot of topics, so what you need to do, aggregate it. So there's a feature you can enable. It's called merge point. I don't want to go too much into the details, but it allows you to basically define the point at which a Kafka topic is split up. So if this were your MQTT topic, and the merge point would be at the point 3, 1, 2, 3, the Kafka topic would look like this, and this would be then in the key here. It's a performance optimization. With this, you can use unlimited amount of MQTT topics in Kafka as well. It's just a small feature I wanted to talk about this. Any other questions?
Well, I'm at the topic on Red Panda. I was just wondering, how can you permanently delete a topic? Can you do it via the console, or do you have to run a Kafka command over the CLI?
Okay, now this is there's a delete button.
It is, but it will the topic will reappear because it's not really deleted. It's
here. But if you have an older UMH instance, when did you install the UMH instance the last time? Is it maybe 4 months old?
It could, no, not 4, but two or 3, yeah.
Maybe it was, we used Red Panda console before we even switched to Red Panda. And I think this change could have been a couple of months back. Maybe this, or it could be that the topic is recreated. Because if I delete this, then it will automatically recreate because there's still data coming in.
Yeah, that must be the issue. That was my question.
I'm not too familiar with UMH, but let's say I want to get started for a factory. I do the install locally, but a Windows IPC or like a Windows computer is not ideal. Would you deploy it on Kubernetes? Deployment of UMH.
I think this was, you came 20 minutes or 30 minutes late.
Yeah, I came late, sorry.
So you just missed that part. We showed it how to install it. And to be honest, we haven't updated the documentation for this, the public one, for the past weeks and months. We did a lot of work there. So if you look at it currently, either wait 1 week until we get an update, or look at the beginning of this meeting.
I will look at the recording. That's fine. Thank you.
There is, we have, you can install it on Red Hat Enterprise Linux or on Flatcar. As installation, you will see it. It's really easy. I did it on Proxmox as a virtual machine. Basically, what you need, we officially support either you have a Red Hat Linux VM, or as a second option, you can install your own VMs. Then you can use Flatcar. It will provide you with the image and everything around it. If you use anything else, any other Linux system, Ubuntu or something, you are on your own. We've had it very often with, it's community supported. If you want to interact like commercially, you can do the contact us thing, and my colleagues can help. How we saw it in, there are a lot of manufacturing companies that only provide like Windows VMs. If you belong to this category, what we've seen is either the company is small enough and you know the IT, so you deploy Flatcar, option 1, option 2, spawn up a virtual machine inside of the Linux, the Windows VM, and then deploy their Flatcar. We've seen, so with Hyper-V, it's really not optimal, but running Kubernetes cluster on Windows, no, it's really not the way to go. So if you belong to the companies where Windows is kind of enforced on all servers,
that would be not ideal indeed. Okay.
If you go into, if you try to do it with Hyper-V, write into Discord, because I know that Daniel H., another community member, is doing it in this company as well. They have a Windows VM running, there's Hyper-V. You might need to set some sort of configuration variables, but we can help you there if you want to get it set up there.
Okay, thank you. There is a Discord. Could you paste a link? Then I know about Discord as well.
You can also get the at learn.umh.apps, there's a big button called Join Our Community.
Join our community. I just saw it. Thank you.
And there you will find the Discord. Or let me take a look. Yeah, it is there. So join Discord.
It's really good. Can really recommend.
Just join the Discord. Thank you.
Hello, cheers. Thank you very much for your presentation, Jeremy. I'm very happy for this improvement. Very good. Just related to microservices. In some situations, I will need maybe to create a React JavaScript external application to read something inside the database. In this process with the management console, I need to do the same as before, like put the microservices in the script. Then I don't know, write the Docker component. I mean, the process is the same. Let me redo my question. For me to do this external application with JavaScript, for example, what's the best way to do it?
The best way is there's still on the Helm chart the option to have a custom microservice. Let me show you. Helm chart. Let me search out the custom. There it is. I'll share the screen. That's the easiest way. If you already have it as a Docker container, very easy to. It's not that's super easy, like I showed you, like in the UI. But still, if you worked a little bit with Helm, it's very easy to add here the
Perfect.
To add it to the Helm chart. You would build this Docker container, put the image name here. You can specify environment variables. If you want to have it exposed or not, if you want to have a data storage or not, there's some functionalities to it. You can also just deploy it normally to Kubernetes how you want.
Perfect. Yeah, it's like before. Okay. Even if you're using the software at the platform. Just and the data consumption. The best way is to get the API from the Factor server.
This one is what we're changing in the current data model. The previous way, we always kind of enforced using factory inside. We saw that a lot of people, they just want to use SQL. So we are by default will enable SQL queries. So we can just access the database via SQL. However, we recommend you not writing directly into it, but you can just connect to TypeScale-DB, to SQL query with it. We're actually optimizing it that the SQL queries are really easy to write and still, hi Christian, really easy to read, but also still performant. Chris, you had a question.
I too need to be leaving soon, but I wanted to thank you for the time today, and I appreciate all the little details that I'm probably going to go through and work through Proxmox here a little later this afternoon. But thank you for the time. And one last kind of question, just thinking about the design considerations. I know you have an article on the UMH, but I think it might be handy for this video. Is what were the considerations to going with Flatcar and going with kind of like a distributable configuration-based Linux for your UMH stack and for people to be able to recreate their systems and recreate their setups? And the last little element of that is, would there be potentialities for configuring the UMH stack? So like for some of us that are like a little bit more basic, like to remove some of the Kafka components and work on a straight, more home lab based MQTT, or if it's just kind of all of those are a part of it and under the hood is a little bit more of a challenge.
What was your question again? Sorry.
What were some of the considerations with going with Flatcar? And also, is there some ways to configure Flatcar kind of under the hood to have a more simplistic kind of like test lab kind of a setup without having to place all the components and all of the levels? Like, for instance, I don't know how much I'm going to be using Kafka or Red Panda when I'm getting MQTT messages from a 3D printer, that's already on Home Assistant and already sending MQTT.
Yeah. So there is, so the first question is why we're using Flatcar. It was based on our own personal pains because we needed at one point to install a lot of devices. And if you install a lot of devices, you want to ensure that everything is automatic. And one example, for example, with Docker Compose, it's people asking, hey, why what Grafana read? I can also do everything with Docker Compose. Yeah, you can do it, but then you still need to open InfluxDB, copy the API key, insert it into Grafana, create like default organization for InfluxDB. At least it was a couple of years back when we had the problem. Yeah, for one instance, it's fine. But if you do it like 20 times, suddenly you will let other people do it. You write a tutorial. For some reason, these people will start clicking different buttons. And suddenly you have not 20 times the same system, but maybe 15 of them will work. And if you're lucky, 15 of them will work. If you're unlucky, 18 of them will work, but 3 of them have a weird configuration option that they will fail after a year. So it's really hard to troubleshoot. So that's the reason with Flatcar, it's unintuitive, especially for experimenting, but it's directly production ready. You put it in there, and every time you enter the same token as we've seen, it will run exactly the same configuration and will replicate down to the -q version, down to the Node-RED flow that the import by default will do everything down there automatically. And that's the reason why I went for Flatcar. If you want to have more experimentation, you could use, for example, a free RHEL derivative, Rocky Linux, whatever. I think you could just, because we're targeting for RHEL, you can also just play around there. Then you have a little bit more command line options because Flatcar is really limited regarding that. And the second question was, there is the option in the Helm chart to actually configure all the components. So you could theoretically disable Kafka, you could theoretically disable timescale.db. However, Kafka is a central part of it. So the microservice that inserts data into the database from the unified namespace actually reads from Kafka. So our goal is to put a shell around it. So the people who don't want to work with it, it's kind of hidden away. So that's the idea, that you could basically just use it as a black box. You can connect MQTT if you have already Home Assistant there. And if you use the same data format as I've shown, data will automatically appear in the database. That's our current way. You could also disable Kafka, but then you would also need to disable the MQTT Kafka bridge. You would also need to disable Kafka to Postgres. And then you would need to write it on your own. If you're just for playing around, feel free to do it. All the options are in the Helm chart. Let me put in the link. They're like really, I think there are over 2,000, 10,000 different configuration options. You have another question?
All right. I just want to say thank you again. I got to go, but will you have the links to the resources and stuff that you kind of opened in this discussion within the YouTube kind of the comment thread or within the YouTube description?
Maybe I'll just post them in Discord.
All right. Perfect. Well, thank you. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Anyone else has any questions? Dennis.
Yes, my question is a bit more high level. I guess by now, over the years, you have some experience deploying the UMH at big enterprises, right? Mm-hmm. And I was wondering what the biggest challenges are, because what I see at some companies, especially like big enterprises, is that they don't have a clear vision on the UNS. They think it's just a component that they're going to install and it's going to work somehow. But I'm really missing the whole strategic view of having one source of data. So can you comment on the biggest challenges you faced that were non-technical when installing, for example, the UMH?
Most challenges are on the non-technical side, of course. And so the biggest challenge is there. So I had opened it. Actually, this article also explained why we went for unified namespace. So how we typically start working with an enterprise is typically with a workshop, because there it's mostly about aligning people, like unified namespace, what is it, and how does it fit into the overall landscape? And I think this one is the most influential workshop that we have, where you can capture a lot of people, like why unified namespace, why this new, basically what we do is unified namespace, hey, yes, it is a buzzword. We have to accept it, but it's a buzzword that's very well rooted into IT and OT best practices. So we basically ignore it entirely, and we go, you see it in one of my MQTT broker comparison articles, from top to bottom, explain how does it, how do you can exchange data between building blocks, super general, but then you have like this data flow through databases, where you store everything database, which could also be historian. You could do like direct connections, but then you have spaghetti diagrams, or you send it through message broker. And by sending it through a message broker, you're already very close to a unified namespace. Another way of explaining it was in another article, one of my more recent ones, integrating the unified namespace with the rest of the enterprise architecture. This was also available as a video. Basically, it's, if you want to have it as a video, you can also look at this. I just changed the title a little bit so I could present it at the Tulip conference. It's this article here. But also another way how to think about unified namespace. And this is how we start the discussions, how we get everyone on boarded. And then it's mostly about who is going to maintain it. This is then why also like enterprise come to us, because they have experimented themselves. They've already have this, but now they want to make it like enterprise ready. So this is then what we discuss, and why we've built the device container infrastructure and why we built the management console, because unified namespace alone is not enough. You also want to have a database. You also want to install it. People need to maintain it. People don't know about Kafka or MQTT or don't want to know about this. If you give me anything more specific, I could maybe deep dive into any more specific issues.
Well, very often you're competing with other digital initiatives. For example, team over there is building a data lake, which is supposed to be the business.
Yes.
So how do you convince to put choose one thing instead of 10 different directions?
This is exactly what we're doing here. Perfect article for this. So, data lake. So actually, there are two types of systems. This one is really, really helpful. There are OLAP systems and OLTP systems. OLTP systems are designed. I want you to do this if you want to.
Oh, no. Actually, no. I agree with that we need a unified namespace instead of a data lake. The problem is that how do you convince the client of this who has already started building?
Unified namespace instead of data lake. No. That's not correct. It's entirely separate things. One is for OLTP systems are for the shop floor SQL databases. They are for having the current version of all the data. OLAP systems, data warehouse or data lakes, are designed for more complex analysis. So these are two different things. So if the client wants to build a data lake, the answer is, okay, but how are going to get the data in there? Because if you send the data directly via an ETL process, it's very easy. You can do it with something like Debitio, get the data from the MES through into the data lake. This is nice. You might do it with something like Kafka. And then you already are one way of doing the unified namespace. So this is how we explain it. So basically, and suddenly, data lake is not competitive to unified namespace. It's unified namespace is a very natural, very boring part. It's been done for 10, 15 years now of getting to an OLAP system. Because to get data into the data warehouse, you need to have some kind of ETL process. ETL process in the modern world, you use something like Kafka to get it in there. And now it's only one additional step, the MQTT broker, to also get data from the PLCs and shop floor, put it in there, and suddenly you have all the data in the unified namespace. You have all the data in the OLAP system, data warehouse, data lake. But still people on the shop floor can still work with it. This is, for example, our typical reasoning.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I didn't contest the architecture. I was just asking how would you approach the problem of a company already committing to a different strategy? And now a different team within that big organization says, no, we want a unified namespace after all, but not the whole company is on board. Do you first make sure everyone is on board? Or can you, let's say, deploy the units as a proof of concept and then convince the whole company to move to this architecture?
Typically, like our goal is we never try to work against people. If there is a company and they just want to do like this data lake thing, but they specifically don't want to do unified namespace or anything like this, we still explain it like how I did it, because basically just take the word unified namespace out of it. Just explain, hey, use Kafka and MQTT. If they don't want to work with MQTT or Kafka, then they're still 10, 15 years behind. And it's like, I mean, it's about finding friends. And if you have data lake people, you can find friends there. There are some discussions, but I personally find art is to discuss with people who go with OPC UA. This one is, I find personally very hard. Data lake is very clear, at least to us. We never had a problem with this in enterprises, but OPC UA is problematic because OPC UA, the discussions are mostly on a scientific level. So people are like, let's put everything into OPC UA. And the people who design everything, it has nothing to do anymore with anything based in reality. So this one I really struggle with, because you're arguing, you try to get something done, and the other people trying fancy charts. The only thing I've known so far is not the people who are like very pragmatic about OPC, but the people who are like, let's go all in, let's do everything with it. So far, to just ignore, so stupid, but ignore them. I think Walker also said it. Ignore them and just let results show it, because they was put a lot of time on it, but I'm very sure they will not be able to show any concrete results. And these cases, there's nothing, they're just waiting. There are a lot of other companies that are currently knocking at our door. We focus on those. They need
That makes sense.
Helps that if they go for just this fancy OPC UA architecture, do everything with it, historian inside OPC UA, whatever, to go for this, then you need to let them do it. But in the meantime, you can still get like some results with this.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Maybe we're running over time, I think, but I had a question. So we already said, I think OPC UA browsing, for example, is necessary. But I think the structure of the UMH is really great, but collecting data, if you do it only with no thread, it's not really scalable, right? It's in long term, you will face into problems. How should you solve that? What's your vision on that? Or how will this evolve?
Okay, so I know this is only like a last question, but it's a very big one. I try to keep it very short.
Sorry.
So there is no red, and it will always be there, and I'm very sure for this weird cases for when you need prototyping. But you're absolutely right. It's not really stable. So in a lot of cases, it could be good enough. It could be still better than nothing for old machines, etc. So what we're doing now, we're progressing this. There is no red. There is, and we saw it with Benthos UMH and like data sources in the management console, that we adding very stable connections to it, which are perfectly aligned with IT best practices, which are really easy to use. This is how we want to proceed with this. Also, there are other components there. There is still, I know it should, in my personal opinion, this is not legal advice, whatever, this is Kepware is not a good solution. That has a lot of problems, but in some cases it could still be good because it has a weird connection, whatever. You can use Kepware. So especially the connectivity part we see it's always going to be a mix of everything. If you have, there are also tools out there like There are a lot of libraries out there. So our plan, first as user, you can use Node-RED, you can use any other tool to do it. It's easy to put like custom microservice in it. We, for us, will also have added the Office UA. We'll probably add like also like some standard things like for REST APIs or anything just on top of and always on top of Benthos. So how we do it in production, we prototype it in Node-RED, and then we implement it in Benthos because even though it's a super small project, it is ridiculously reliable. We did a lot of tests and we never had so far any problem with Benthos in terms of reliability. I don't know why it can compete to all the commercial solutions out there, but I'm sorry, I'm out about this, but it's really easy to do really simple data processing to it. So if we look at the possible connectors, it will connect to AMQP, S3, you can load in CSV from a file storage to it, HTTP, Kafka, MongoDB, MQTT, NATS, Redis, even FTP, you can fetch regular files from somewhere. There's really, in one case, it was more like playing around and even connected a vibration sensor, which acts like a sound card and piped it in with STDN. So basically I was even able to connect with Benthos even sound cards or vibration sensors. But this is how we are approaching it. And then on the management console, we build a UI to better manage it. That's our approach.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Really nice.
Good. So we're getting it to the end of this. I also need to go in 3 minutes. So really thank you for coming and for having all the questions. I will still be available in the community. I still might not be fully present as I was a couple of months back because we're really focusing now on product development. But I'm trying to get more and more back into the community as well. If you want, we can do another meeting in, I don't know, like 2 weeks or something, just exchange ideas, what other people did, just get inspiration. I know there are a lot of members there playing around. Could be a good way for everyone to, get.
That will get perfect brackets. We need to keep it. That will be perfect.
All right. So thank you everyone
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, people. Cheers. Bye-bye.